Hello everyone, my name is D3Damage/Moe, and welcome to my PowerPoint presentation of How to Open. Part 1 of 3, Why Play Open and Resources. So this is going to be a 3-parter because the longer I typed out my scripts, the longer I realized the video became. And eventually I realized, oh, I need to split it into 2 parts. And as I started stripping out the last part of the video, I was like, oh, it really needs to be 3 parts. So I'm so sorry for making this into a 3-part epic, but I gotta do what I gotta do. So let's talk about the first part of that. Why play open? I've talked about this in other videos before, and I encourage you to watch those other videos. But on a really basic level, I promise you one of the best things is how much less time you need to prepare. While these are some older screenshots, it still holds true. Because there's a hard limit, you can only become so strong. Because you can only become so strong, you can spend less time hunting for the literal perfect Uma. They're strong enough really is strong enough. And you know by now that's not the case in graded. Look at this. This was the case for an A plus back in freaking Scorpio Cup. And now there's UGs on the table. And you can't tell me that rank doesn't matter. Yes, it's totally possible for the UG to be filled with random garbage skills. But you know that's not what's happening. You know that the very highest level, that the people that are keeping you out of graded A, the people that are knocking you down and keeping you out of the running, are not the people who are quote unquote okay at the game and would make that type of basic mistake. The people who are doing this are building perfectly competitive Umas with only good skills and maxed out stats. You're not competing with these people. So ultimately, one of the major reasons to play open is, well, you don't gotta compete with those people anymore. Now, I will hear some people that talk about like the resources you can earn for graded, and that's kind of true, right? Like if you're doing super good in graded and you're consistently getting like a 70% or better win rate in graded, yeah, absolutely, continue to do so. You will see better rewards, and if rewards are all you care about, then yeah, keep doing it, right? But that's the problem. In order to get to that point, in order to see these rewards, you gotta win, right? And that's kind of a problem, right? Like if you don't win, the rewards kind of suck, right? And obviously, your mental kind of suffers from continuous failure. I do think, to some degree, a lot of people have suffered from previous people making comments about what they should do. And having to only do graded, I do think makes your mental suffer tremendously. I do think it's a bad thing for a lot of people. I suspect that if more people had been pointed towards open, the player count would be look a little, at least a little bit better than what it does now, right? And do bear in mind, in order to get to graded B, right? Because some people say, oh, well, this even if you end up in graded B, it's still better. Well, the graded B rewards are exactly the same as open A, except that you had to lose a lot, right? So that means that you probably never got more than 3 wins on a ticket. And if I go back just once, right, you can see that at 3 wins per ticket, you're making the same as what you would have done in open. So if you never get that good, so if you're only ever 2 wins or less, you're doing worse than what you probably would have done in open, right? Just full frontal. Now let's talk win rates, right? Because I know some people are going to be like, well, I don't want my win rate to suffer, or yada, yada, yada. There is a harsh truth that I have to tell you, all right? If you are currently with a 0 to 33% win rate in graded, you probably could have gotten a 67 through 80% win rate in open. How do I know this? Well, if you are perfectly capable of making an S plus or SS, you're probably still not good enough to consistently win in graded. I'm sorry, that's just the reality of the situation, right? But that does mean you have powerful enough cards that you can reasonably and reliably make an A plus, right? You probably have never failed to make at least an A plus. And just by virtue of being able to make that high grade, you're probably making a reasonably competitive Uma. All right, people have definitely thrown some trash at the wall and made some absolutely great win rates happen because of it, right? You can do this. But there is a caveat to that, and that caveat is, well, while it is possible to get a better than average win rate in open just by switching to open, you're probably not going to get that 90%, right? It is worth noting that in open, you can't scam people out. You can't just have better cards than them and expect to guarantee that 90% win rate. If you ever get a 90% win rate, something fairly powerful has happened. You found the sauce. You found the build that people weren't expecting to be put together, or you got the Turf S, Medium S, and also got an entire team built around making that one Uma work. you're gonna have to fight a lot harder to do that 90% win rate. Again, because you can't stand people out, because you can't just have better cards and hope it will work out, you really do gotta fight for that sauce. With that in mind, here's what I really want to cover today, and make sure that everyone has on the same docket. All right, I want to talk a little bit about resources you have access to. This entire presentation is really about the resources that are in your pocket that you can use to help make sure you have a good experience when you transition from graded to open. Because I do suspect that with the transition to A+, a lot of people are probably going to be trying out open. And so I want to try and help out as many people as I can get through that initial phase. Make sure you keep an eye out for the more in-depth guides later, but if I try and give out those more in-depth guides without making sure that you all know about these resources, frankly, I think you'll be in a rough spot. Now, here's what I will say, right? Please keep in mind, it takes a really stupid person to get angry at someone else for not knowing what they are not taught. So I'm going to try and do my best to teach you all about some of the basics, right, that you're about to encounter. So let's hit it. First things first, Gametora. So this really should be a fundamental tool that every single trainer has in their toolkit. All right, it's not the only one. We're gonna talk about more later. But this guide really does have Gametora really does have everything. Right, it has a database on characters, supports, skills, races, racetracks, and more. I am not going to cover everything that this tool can do for you. Instead, I'm going to focus on a couple of key aspects I think everyone should be aware of. First and foremost, I think this is an incredible tool for just picking what characters to run in the first place. If you didn't know, if you have a stat of at least E for your track affinity or distance affinity, then you can get to an A at the starting date with 10 sparks. You can see a spark list over here to the right. If you have at least a B, you only need 1 to 3 sparks. If you have at least a C, you only need 4 sparks, so on and so forth. This little chart here can tell you everything. And so on Gametora, you can quickly hop onto their aptitude selector and just say, hey, who has at least a mile aptitude of E? Well, it'll show you the list. So if you wanted to run Rice Shower, you could go, oh, mile C, I could easily make that into mile A. And I know at least a couple people will go, oh, well, you could just search for that on the in-game search engine, right? Kind of. The in-game search engine will only tell you who has an A affinity, all right, or an A aptitude. So if they have a C, it won't show up in the search engine. They just won't be there in-game. You'll need a tool like Gametora to help you. And now a couple other people go, well, she's my Oshi. I already knew that. Well, yeah, but again, remember, we're trying not to get mad at people for not knowing something. We're trying to help people. We're trying to give people more tools so they can be a little bit more competitively viable, right? Which speaks to the other incredibly powerful tool that a lot of people just aren't aware of enough, right? Which is there's a compare tool in Gametora that allows you this very special trick. You get to see how cards compare to each other. So you'll get a really good feel for like how good your cards actually are. Not enough people do this. Also, a lot of people aren't aware of the bonuses that different cards give. Like every card has like a special bonus, right? Like a bonus speed, bonus train effectiveness that it says in its description, but you're never told how much that bonus is, right? And so Gametora lets you actually see what those bonuses are. But it also lets you see, oh, wait a minute, maybe some of my bonuses aren't all they're cracked up to be, yeah? Yeah, you've probably had it happen at least once where you're taking a card because you're told it's a meta card, but then like your numbers just don't pan out the way that you suspect they should, right? And it turns out that if you don't MLB cards, that they're not that good a lot of the time. In fact, the current best speed card in the game, Kia-san Black, soon to be dethroned, is arguably worse in some ways than regular Silent Suzuka. Yes, that is regular Silent Suzuka, by the way. They have the same friendship bonus, a better mood effect, and a much, much better specialty priority. And a lot of people will tell you specialty priority is king, right? Now, obviously, it doesn't have the train effectiveness, and so when it does land on speed, Kia-san Black is still arguably better, but it just won't be there as often. And if you're taking a speed card for the ability of it to give you speed, there are better cards than 0 LB Kia-san Black. And you would never know that if you don't compare them with the Gametora Compare tool or a couple others that we'll talk about in a few seconds. Right? There are other tools that we're going to talk about. But first, we got to keep talking about Gametora, because you can also find skills on here. Specifically, you can find what type of skill you want and what you want it to do and where you can find it. So let's say, for example, you want a mid-leg end closer rare still. So you want a 35% speed bonus in the mid race. Okay, well, you can type that in. And then you can find, oh, it's only Daring Strike. Well, that's fine. Because it's only Daring Strike, you can say, okay, well, where do I want to find those? And you can say, oh, I can find out off of Admire Vega or Mr. CB. Both cards will give it to me. And then you can make your best guess on, okay, well, what do I have access to? What do I need to borrow? What cards are good for me right now, right? Like, this just having access to more tools is incredible, right? And so having a tool that lets you find and collect the pieces of your Uma together is really important and really valuable. Again, I'm not going to go over all the individual possible ways you can use this function. I'm only going over and covering it so that you know that this tool exists, all right? It also does something that's incredibly important. It tells you the conditions, okay, and what those conditions actually mean. If you just read the plain text of a lot of stills, it might not be obvious what those stills do, all right? So what does this thing over here translate to? Well, what it translates to is this is a end closer still that happens sometime in the mid race, as long as you are in 5th place or worse, or rather the back half of the pack. There's no way you would know that by just reading the still. You might know the end closer part, and you might know that happens in the mid race, but not every still is this transparent. A lot of stills have very confusing bylines, and you'll also learn things about like how they function. For example, you'll learn that Daring Strike here has a 4-second duration. That's pretty unusual. Most gold stills last for 3 seconds or less. It's pretty normal, in fact, for a lot of mid-race stills to only have like a 1.6 or 2.4 second time. So 4 seconds is actually huge, especially for a 25% speed bonus. That's very impressive. That's a very good, very powerful speed bonus, yeah? So definitely something worth keeping in mind. Now then, you can also find the affinity calculator in here. And you might go, okay, well, why do I care about the affinity calculator? Well, it turns out that when you know how much affinity you have off of a subject, you also know how likely you are to proc the still chances. So if you're trying to get pink sparks or you're trying to get white sparks, you can see how valuable those are to you based on your affinities. Even by looking at just the white stills, so the February Stakes versus Japanese Oaks, you can see that Mihono Bourbon here, so if we go back to our list, Mihono Bourbon is literally our highest affinity possible for Maruzenshi, right? So that's how it works. It says, choose your core character, the parents, and the grandparents, right? You can see how good those affinities are. This is important for if you like to run a particular Uma a lot, or if you're running an Uma for the first time, you can see how good and how likely you are to actually get your inheritance procs per inheritance, right? Now, this is a big deal, especially in Open, because in Open, you're probably not relying so much on your white spark inheritances as much. You're relying a lot more on your blues and pinks. That's a pretty significant change from Graded, at least on the mid to high tier, right? In Graded, you definitely care more about the white sparks because you're relying so much on your white sparks to actually proc and give you the skills you want for any given race, right? By the way, if you've been struggling in Graded, this might be one of the reasons why. It really goes unstated how important parents are for high-level graded play, because high-level graded parents provide you all the white sparks you need, and so much of your play is really getting your stats off rip on guarantee, and then hoping your sparks proc. It's a rough life. Gametora, of course, also provides you with some basic information on the different cups. For example, on the current Gemini Cup, it can tell you what the other cups were like, what the current green stills are. We're going to get back to green stills later. Green stills or gold stills, keep that in mind for Open for later. It also tells you what the phases are like and what these stills proc on. So it also has a nice little convenient map. Some people are fond of the bar, right? The colored bar. I'm not, personally, but I can understand why you would be. But still, I like maps. I don't know, I'm map coded. It's the optimism in me. Now, we do... Okay. I'm going to be real with y'all. I know a lot of people... We're moving on from Gametora from here, and I know a lot of people are going to be saying how they're scared of calculators. They don't want to engage the calculator. They don't want to deal with it. It's not that hard, guys. It is a basic Google search to go look up an Uma rating calculator that's in English, alright? I know a lot of people avoided it because the calculators were in Japanese before. that was literally only true for the very first CM. After the first CM, there were a ton of people that put a ton of work in converting those those calculators from Japanese into English. Okay, so please take advantage of the good work. Also, the golden number is 14,499. You cannot go over that. If you go over that, you'll hit an S. So 14,500 or higher is S rating. So you need to make sure to stay below that. Now, I will point out another comparable guide to Gametora, which is Uma.guide. I do think, in a lot of ways, Uma.guide is actually preferable. There are some small things that it does that are incredible. One, it has a much better agenda planner. So if you want to make a custom agenda just for yourself so you can transfer over into your files, you can. It also has some neat tricks with speed training, right? Or really any training at all, where you can see how valuable each individual card is for a specific training. So you can see like, oh, this is how much stats each of these cards gives, and that's honestly kind of incredible. It makes your day a lot simpler when you know how good your individual trainings are going to be when you're taking that card. It's very, very nice. They also have a much cleaner breakdown of different of different skills. They have the plain English of, oh, Daring Strike here is a mid-race, phase mid-race skill for end closes only if you're in 5th through 9th. And that's incredible. That's an incredible way to look at the tool. It feels very good, I will say. It feels very, very nice. And so if you're not a fan of how plain Jane Gametora is, I definitely recommend Uma.guide over Gametora. I will say though, please take things that they say over in Gametora with in Uma.guide with a grain of salt. So, they routinely put out these guides that are routinely good for graded, but bad for open. Allow me to explain. Back in CM11, which is the 3,200 meter long, Super Creek showed up basically nowhere on their tier list. Nowhere. And we go, okay, well, why is that important? Well, because in Open, Super Creek was the highest average win rate Uma in the lobby. Even your random trash Super Creek, who had terrible stats and mediocre skills, still had like 50 to 60% win rates. Absolutely high tier Uma had 80% win rates with Super Creek. Without debuffer support, mind you. So they weren't even solo aces, they were just dominating their random gold chips and random Tomomo crosses and whatever. So like all these other S tiers that were in S tier for graded were literally an entire tier or two below how Super Creek performed. Super Creek was incredible that CM, but you would never know it if you only looked at Uma.guide. And bear in mind, this is going to be a theme, okay? Like, what's good in Open and what's good in Graded are different, alright? You are going to have to make some decisions for yourself at least some of the time, right? As a rule, every Uma, every single one is Open viable. But not all of them are, like, high-tier Open competitive, right? We're, like, again, we're aiming at that 90% marker, right? What that looks like is so different from Graded, alright? Actually, here's a great example here, right? You see how Krista Zaguri is right here, right? Like, she's just kind of like hovering around here in like A tier. Krista Zaguri was actually quite bad. Any random Krista Zaguri in that CM did worse than any random Super Creek. And Super Creek was just not on anyone's radar if you were in graded circles, right? So, again, keep all this in mind. Keep in mind what a fat grain of salt we're talking about here. Next up, we gotta talk about content creators, okay? When it comes to open content creators, I've looked. I'm pretty sure for open content creation, it's just me. So that means you're going to have to use graded content creators at least some of the time. And you're going to need to be aware of what they do for you and how they can help you. Alright? Roughly speaking, I think there are 3 broad camps of content creators. Now, please bear in mind, I'm not saying that any of them are better than any of the others. I'm not saying that any of them are favorites. I am not saying that you should only follow one type. I'm pointing out these types of content creators so that you can make informed decisions about what you personally want and can find creators that do what you personally enjoy so that you can have a better time with Uma. And that's the whole point, right? The whole point is to enjoy your time with Uma just a little bit more, right? Other piece of advice. While I'm putting them into these 3 kind of broad categories, there is a lot of overlap. This Venn diagram is not for show. They of course have overlap with each other. Different content creators will have definitely have favorites. They'll definitely do things that other people do. So Oh, and I'm also using limited examples, right? I'm only showing off like 5 content creators, but there's so many more than that, right? There's gonna be a ton of content creators like Rednew, Jackie X, right? Uma Tactics that I'm not showing here, but they do generally fall into one of these 3 categories, which is why I'm not showing them, right? So first off, the math nuts, all right? So this is primarily exemplified by Lightburb and 71M3. Lightburb and 71M3 are, if you're looking to win, and winning is your primary goal, and you don't care how you get there, Lightburb and 71M3 are probably some of your best resources. Because they show you the math and logic behind a lot of mechanics of Uma, you can do a lot better at the game in general by just looking at their guides and following their advice. All right, I will not lie to you. At least some of my own personal success has been by looking at the math that 71M3 and Lightburb have done, and then converting that into open numbers, and then using that to make open victories. A very large degree of my own success is definitely these two. Okay, and so if you only care about winning, definitely look at them. Again, I'm not saying they don't fall into the other categories. Lightburb in particular is a bit of an Oshi nut for winning a ticket, all right? But I definitely will say the Oshi drafters are their own breed, okay? This is the type of person, notably Ray is the one that stands out to me the most, right? Every cycle, every CM, there's at least one video from Ray about how to beat the meta and choosing your side and saying where you stand on the meta, okay? Girl goes out of her way to try and beat it every single CM. And hey, she's doing numbers, so hey, fair enough, right? Again, fair reminder, 33% is a average win rate. Doing more than double that is really, really good, okay? Fuji stands unite, right? Also, bear in mind, I do think that while there are other people who do drafting, notably Victoria Frontier definitely does drafting, and many people in their clientele do drafting, I do think that Ray has the best Discord for learning how to be a drafter. They are incredibly active, they're incredibly helpful, they're incredibly kind. Her community is honestly phenomenal. It's one of the only graded communities I've actually stayed in. Normally, I hop into a graded Discord and then I leave after not too long. They just kind of annoy me, right? The way that they talk. But her community is so awesome, and I can't recommend them enough if you just want to meet people to learn how to draft. What is drafting? Drafting is a 5v5 format where you draft your Uma with a team of 4 other people, and you try and race against another team. It's honestly really fun. If you're not sure about it, Lightburb and Ray have also have done drafts together. I highly recommend checking out those videos if you want to try it out. It is a very fun way to do Uma. Last but not least, the veterans. The Japanese, the Koreans, the Taiwanese, the people who have come before, who largely leverage their own experience in past Uma metas and use older versions of the game to give you updated information. For the most part, they are the source of vibes, right? Like they are the big boss vibes of Uma. Most generic information that comes out of Uma comes from people like these two, like Victoria Frontier, like Moo Cows. Now, I will say there are problems with that. One, they are very much the source of a lot of the open bias that you see. A lot of people will tell you not to play open. It's them, right? They are definitely the ones who push the anti-open agenda the hardest. I'm not holding that against them. I'm just pointing out they are both very aware of how much lower the player count has gotten. And so they're aware that stress has something to do with how Uma is doing. And Moo Cows in particular has gone out of the way to try and help people de-stress and make low-effort things happen and not stress about what happens in the current CM. And they've also done great data collection on win rates and how people do and how people perform. And as a rule, I do think it's worth noting that if you follow these two and have been part of their communities, there is very good data that shows just following these two great content creators as a whole and following their advice does net you a bigger win rate. But it's also worth noting, because they have no data on open, it's basically all me, their recommendations won't always work. And to be fair, again, giving credit to Moo Cows, he has said when he's been wrong. He's made active videos saying what I've gotten wrong. right? And things to correct himself on. And full credit to him. That's awesome stuff, right? Now then, let's talk a little bit about some other resources you might have access to that aren't just the creators, not Gametora, not Uma.guide. You need to find parents and you need to find cards. It is a harsh truth of Open that you're probably going to need to abandon at least a couple people and find new cards. Weird tech pieces are a lot more valuable in Open. There's an entire category of card you just never take normally, right? And you would never find them without Uma.moe and Chronoogenesis, right? Now, between these two, they're kind of interchangeable to me, okay? Like, Uma.moe has more stuff, including out-of-date tier lists, so take those with a grain of salt, but they exist, right? Chrono.genesis, though, honestly, it's a lot more user-friendly, right? Like, even though it has less stuff than Uma.moe does, like, if you're looking for very precise things, and you're trying to get as precise a result as possible, and you're just really math-coded that way, I do think Uma.moe is better. But if you're, like, a normal person, and you're just like, I just want to, like, click funny buttons and get funny things, Chronogenesis is a lot easier to use, okay? It is so much cleaner to use this freaking website, okay? Also, you get cute little dancing Uma. Cute little dancing Uma are cute. Oh, I need to talk about how I got this information, okay? You all need to understand that part of why I made this entire presentation, this entire slide, is because I asked questions about what people knew and what people didn't know about Open. Things that they would personally like help with. Things that they personally were just like a little confused on. The single most common question that I got was, what scenario do you play? And I think that's completely fair. So I'm going to talk about each of the scenarios in turn, why you should or should not use them. So let's start with URA Finale. Here's what I will say. URA Finale was the gold standard back when you had to get a B rank or lower. For getting Bs, URA Finale was incredibly consistent. I basically never touched Unity Cup when the floor was at B, right? It was just a little bit too difficult to work around. Focus on URA Finale. Now it is a bit of a balancing act, I will say, when we talk about URA Finale, right? Because like it does some things that are very, very strong. It gives you extremely consistent access to your hints. Access to your hints is incredibly important, right? You need hints in Open. I've talked about it earlier, but I'm going to mention it again now. In Open, because you don't have to hit the crazy stat requirements of graded, you can use cards that would otherwise be considered quote-unquote parent cards, right? Cards that give lots of hints, or lots of hint frequency, or bonus stats that you don't normally care about. So, a way to look at it is that if you're in graded and you want left-handed, you probably never take Major Ardon here, right? If you're in graded, you're probably relying on much more powerful cards or parent hints. With parent hints, you saw before, you have like a 5% chance per 3-star hint, right? So if you have every parent having it, you have maybe a 1 in 10 chance, maybe across 2 events, right? So not that likely to hit. Versus here, you have a 1 in 6 chance, and you're probably going to have like 9 to 12 opportunities to get left-handed here. So 1 in 6, right? So instead of 1 in 10, 1 in 6 with 9 tries instead of 2 tries. And unlike inheritances, with hints, what can happen is every time you buy a skill, it makes it so that you can't see that event again in hints, making it more likely that you'll see the result you actually want. So you actually, if you hit soft step and preferred position a bunch of times, well, congratulations, now it's no longer a 1 in 6, now it's a 1 in 4, right? And you still have like 4 or 5 shots left. I'll take those odds. Those odds mean you're much more likely to hit key skills off of hints from cards than you ever will be in graded. So it's definitely something you should take advantage of, and URA Finale lets you take advantage of that. Now, what are the downsides? The downsides are that URA Finale does not give you any bonus stats, right? So it's a lot harder to hit the stat totals you want. You will need a much, much stronger card pool. In some ways, if you are someone who is switching from graded to open, and you were performing like okay in graded, like you had like a 45 to 55% win rate, so better than average, but not like top dog, you might actually do really well in URI finale. Give it a couple tries, test it out, see how you liked it. You'll probably find yourself hitting A's a lot more often than before. A plus is definitely the goal, but an A can work. I would just personally recommend an A plus. Which is why we now talk about Unity Top. Yes, Unity Top is very good for hitting A+, especially if you have a powerful deck. If you have a very good wit speed deck, Unity Top is incredible. Unity Top should also be your go-to if you're going to be doing anything with Runaway Suzuka or want better access to gold stills. This is what Unity Top is really, really good at. Unity Top is really good at getting you still access if they're golds. Specifically, if you want Mile Maven, or in particular, No Stopping Me, you're going to run Unity Cup. Unity Cup also still allows story events, which again is true of URI Finale, by the way. URI Finale also lets you run story events. So you can do things like get Runaway Suzuka or Runaway Majoro, right? It's totally possible. The downside, of course, being that you can't see your hints anymore. Unity Cup has explosions, fireballs, right? Unity Cup trainings. Those are downsides. Yes, they help you get stats that you want. Yes, it's true. But they also obscure your hints. They make it so that all those hints that we just hyped up, right? That we just talked about how good it is that you have a 1 in 4 chance with 12 chances to hit your hints, you just never see them. And so, because you're playing blind in Unity Cup, I personally very rarely do it. So we gotta talk about trackblazer. Oh, trackblazer. Oh boy. So, a lot of other people, when trackblazer started, were very frustrated because trackblazer takes more time and you have to do more decisions. I'm gonna help y'all out. This is what open was like already. Trackblazer was just a normal open play experience, right? Taking decisions, being careful, measuring out the value of a race versus a Unity Cup training, measuring out the value of the exclamation point versus that one fat training. You had to be patient. You had to look and you had to think. You had to watch your races, right? Because you need to know why you were losing. Did you have to buy a still? Did you have to buy something? Was there a reason to do something? You couldn't just outstat the Uma in URI Finale. Your stats were URI Finale stats. You had to think very carefully about what you were doing. Trackblazer, you already did that. And in particular, Trackblazer lets me be so precise. You can always use the right tool for the job. You need a hammer to get a little bit more skill points? Use it. You need a notebook to read up a little bit and get those little bits of stats that you want? You can use it. There's a reason you can hit UGs in trackblazer, but you can't in Unity Cup or URI Finale. It gives you a ton of bonus stats and bonus tools. I will say, depending on how the next scenario goes and how good it is at giving you precise results, I might stick with trackblazer for making open runs, because it's so good at getting you exactly what you want. Which leads me to the most common question that I got. What about my unique stills? I got a lot of questions about this, okay? About, like, when do I level up your unique stills? Well, when you were at B rank, you had no spare points. And so, wherever possible, the gold standard was to have a level 1 ult. In URI Finale, that was pretty easy to do. You just had to play around with like some fan rating or whatever, right? In trackblazer, it was incredibly simple. Just avoid the director. Just never click on her face and do as few races as possible. Easy. Bam. Easy B. At A+, though, in order to hit A+, you do need to take advantage of the bonus stats that come out of races. Which means you're going to be leveling up Director Aizawa. Which means you're going to level up your unique skill. You really can't avoid it. Like, it's technically possible if you have a really powerful deck with a really crazy raw stat bonuses. Like, what? Full Kiyosan Black, full Seeking the Pearl, full everything, right? Like, Super Creek, right? If you can name a meta card and that's all that you're using, yes, I think you could get away with, like, a level 1 ult. It is possible. But for most of us, you're going to level up your ult at least once. It's going to happen. My personal recommendation, though, don't worry about it, okay? Like, it's not like it's a bad thing. Like, leveling up an ult is inefficient, right? But it's never terrible, right? It's always a 1% increase in value, even if the points don't match that increase. But hey, a 5% increase in your ult, going from 35% speed boost to a 40% speed boost, that's important. That's valuable, right? And I would argue that at level 5, it's okay. You don't want to go over level 5. So like if you're level 1, if you're level a 3-star Uma, you're never going to hit level 5 anyway, so just don't worry about it. If you are a level 5 Uma though, so a 5-star Uma, I will say you probably need to go out of your way to avoid racing in the junior year, okay? Just so that you can avoid over leveling and save yourself on some points, right? Again, you don't want to do it like crazy. You don't want to be a psycho about it, right? You can still take early races, but be gentle with yourself, right? Now then, some things we do need to talk about, like some of the flaws of trackblazer. It doesn't really offer great wit support. Now, you don't need 1,200 wit. This isn't graded, right? Truthfully, you really just need somewhere between 350 to 1,000 wit. You don't want more than that because it starts getting expensive, right? In terms of just raw points, because again, you got to think about your points cap in open, right? Going over 1,000 wit is a lot for very little reward, right? Very, very notably, once you hit 350 wit, you already have a 70% chance to proc your skills, and you already have like a 25 or 24% chance to proc like mid-race wit checks. Going up to 1,200 only gets you to a 90% proc chance for your skills and a 32% proc chance for mid-race wit skills. So, like, you're talking, you're adding a lot of points to only get like a 7 to 20% like boost. It's kind of expensive, right? So, I personally recommend having like 600-ish wit. That's usually where I end up at. But it's okay if you go a little bit over, a little bit under, right? Like, it's not the end of the world. This does mean that you have to consider your wit cards a little bit more carefully than your other cards because there's no support for it in trackblazer, right? There's no wit ankle weights, okay? Your only training help you're gonna get with wit is specifically like wit training application and the raw wit stat growth from like manuals and notebooks and stuff like that, right? So because of that, and because it's a lot harder to get your wits, you do need to be a little bit careful, right? Don't be afraid to take a stat stick. Don't be afraid to just slam home a wit card because it gives you big numbers, okay? Oh, other fun thing about trackblazer that we gotta talk about. You know that downside I talked about with the Unity Cup about how it hides your hints? Well, guess what doesn't do that? That's right, trackblazer. Trackblazer is so good, guys. I can't talk enough about how good trackblazer is. You can see your hints. Cards that you would never take. Measure Ardon, regular Stamina Queen, Daitaku Helios, Inari 1. These cards that like you're never gonna see in graded runs are so good in open runs. Oh my gosh, Daitaku Helios, my goat. Also keep in mind something for later. This is gonna be this guide, this part 1, is intended as a springboard for helping you move on to other guides, alright? Because we have 2 more guides in the works for you, okay? What you need to understand is that sometimes it's just gonna happen. You're gonna have too many stat points. You're gonna have some skill points that are gonna be left over. It is okay, right? Don't fret about it. As long as you use your calculator properly and you know how many points you're over or under by, you can just say, I'm not gonna buy a skill, right? So keep that in mind. Because we already know that in many runs you're going to have at least some skill points left over, try not to stress so much about skill points. We're going to come back to that. First, we got to talk about when to buy items. This was one of the most common questions I got after, well, which scenario do I run? After which scenario do I run, the most commonly asked question was, when do I buy what? Right? People are really lost on trackblazer on like what to buy. Here's a simple guide. All right. When it comes to scrolls, manuals, and notepads, use your best judgment. I'm sorry, I know that's not super helpful, but here, if you're within like 1,000 of your goal, so like the very start of the run, buy every stat boost that you can. More stats equal better early races. Better early races equals more stats and more skill points. Again, while you might have enough left over, there is nothing more tragic than having exactly the stat line you wanted, exactly the skills you wanted lined up, and then trying to clicking the buy button and realizing you don't have enough skill points. It's pretty tragic, right? You'd rather have more skill points than not enough, right? So just buying these helps you hit your stat goals. I will say, once you hit like 200 short of your let's say your stat goal is 1,000 speed. once you're, or no, let's say your stat goes 1,200 speed. Once you hit 1,000 speed, stop buying these, okay? At that point, you're in very big danger of going over. If you do buy them, don't use them. This is a magical trick, by the way, about these. You can basically always buy these. You don't always have to use them right away. As long as you remember to use them before the end of the run, and you're very confident about where your stats are going to end up before the end of the run, you can always just use these deep into the run, like as late as you want, to make sure you hit the stat points you actually need, right? There is no one holding a gun to your head saying, hey, you have to spend these, right? And I do think these are a great category, especially the cheaper ones, like the notepads, right? And then for power and wit and guts, right? Like, for these in particular, like, who cares? Just whatever. Just buy it and forget about it. Like, if you get to use it, great. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to. Now, energy is not the same way. You are buying basically every Vita that you see. Vita 20, Vita 40, Vita 65, buy it. I don't care, right? It happened. You are an open. You don't have to do 3 races at a time multiple times in a row, okay? Like, you just don't have to. But that means you're going to be short on energy because you're going to have trainings in between your sets of 2 or 3 races, right? Again, mostly sets of 2, periodically a set of 3, right? Because it's so much rarer for you to run out of energy, just buy the energies. Don't run the risk of failing your trainings. Just buy the energy. Great. Royal Kale Juice is a little bit more up in the air. Like, if you have a normal mood right now, don't slam home the Royal Kale Juice. I would buy it still, but just hold it until you can, like, afford to, like, get your mood back. Mood is important, right? It makes racing easier. It improves your stat growth. Like, being at, like, good or normal is fine. Being at bad or awful is not. So don't use Royal Kale Juice if it would put you into bad or awful mood. Now, the version of Max Energy Drink that gives you energy is okay. It's only 5 energy. I very rarely buy it, okay? I'll be honest with you. If I do buy it, it's because I want to make sure that, like, oh, I'm on my 3rd race, and it's my 3rd race, but I'm out of energy. I really don't want to get a bad condition. If you just have any energy at all in the pot in your bar, then that will usually prevent you from getting skin conditions, right? So I will occasionally use Max Energy Drink Max specifically to make sure that I don't accidentally hit 0 energy on my 3rd race. But again, 3rd races are just a lot less common in open than they are in graded. In graded, you do it all the time, right? In graded, if you're not running like 40-something, 50-something races, like you're kind of throwing, right? Like 30 is kind of the low bar in graded versus an open, like 30s is kind of like the high bar, right? Like, you don't really want to have more than 35 races, right? Which is why Energy Drink Max EX, the +8 version that gives no energy raw, is kind of bad. I basically never buy that. There is an exception, and I will mention that exception. If any of you happen to have Seeking the Pearl does improve in train effectiveness the more maximum energy you have. I will say, if you do hit that 120 max energy, she is an incredibly powerful card. Arguably better than Kiyosan Black. I won't hear no, right? 20% train effectiveness is just a huge number. And it's one that you are very, very much in control of in trackblazer. So specifically, if you're taking Seeking the Pearl, slam home every Energy Drink Max and every Energy Max AX that you see. Otherwise, don't bother. Spend it on something else. By the way, the same is kind of true of cupcakes, right? Like, I will buy them sometimes, but, like, you don't have to buy these, right? Like, again, being in a normal or a good mood is good enough, right? I generally have at least one on hand of either one, just so that if I see a Royal Kale Juice, I can slam it home without feeling bad, right? And it also helps open up more times where, like, Kale Juice would have been bad. Like, if Kale Juice puts you into a bad mood, that's not a good Kale Juice, right? But Kale Juice with a cupcake, okay, well, normally you're at least a normal mood or better, thanks to the cupcake, right? So just grab one. Now, that being said, don't grab every one you see. You don't need to have, like, 3 cupcakes piled up, okay? 1 or 2 is usually good enough for the entire run. Especially because, again, you're an open, you're really unlikely to be running triplicate races, and because you're not running that many races, you'll probably be okay, alright? Oh, the religion. Alright, I know some of you. I know some of you subscribe to the joke, right? if I just buy yummy cat food, I'll have a good run. Oh no, I didn't buy yummy cat food. I'll have a bad run. You're in open. You're always gonna have a good run. There is no such thing as a bad run in open. There are definitely runs that are better than others. There's definitely room for improvement in different open runs, but it's not like graded where you're gonna be sending like 50 runs and then just never see what you want, right? You're not a 1 in 50 trainer anymore. You're like a 1 in 5 trainer, okay? 1 in 5 runs will probably generate exactly what you want, okay? So you just don't need yummy carrot food. All right, it's not not required. Again, we're already trying to avoid the director. If you have like a level 6, a 5-star Uma who's in danger of hitting a level 6 ultimate, you don't need to be doing this to yourself. All right. On the other hand, grilled carrots, buy those every time you see them. Buy them. Just buy them. Buy grilled carrots. Buy grilled carrots. Until you know that all your friendships are in orange, buy a gold carrot. Heck, if they're in blue, if you have 4 oranges, but one of your girls isn't there yet, just buy the carrots, okay? You won't believe how many runs you save by just having your friendship trainings up a lot sooner. It helps so much. Every grilled carrots you see is amazing. I will say, grilled carrots is so good, it makes some other items that we're about to see a lot worse. Namely, these pieces of garbage. Yes, all 4 of these items are straight garbage. Never buy them. And you might go, what? But it's pretty mirror, and it could be charming. Yeah, at 150. You know what else is 150? 4 sets of carrots. Right? You know what charming does? Charming lets you +2 per training you do with a character. All right? Per training you do with support, charming gives +2. All right. How many trainings do you need to equal 1 carrot? Well, that says all supports, +5. So, quick math time, you have 6 supports. 5 times 6 is 30. How many trainings do you need to hit to get charming worthwhile? 15! 15! It's not worth it! Don't go out of your way to get it! Like, if it's... Okay, no, caveat. If it's literally junior year, and there's nothing else to buy, sure, okay, yeah, get the pretty mirror, whatever, alright? But 9 times out of 10, I don't bother. Report binoculars and master press. The other 3 though, there's basically never a reason to buy the other 3. Okay, at least if you're doing an open run. Why? Well, you don't care about Hot Topic, right? You don't care about your bond with Aishizawa. You do care a little bit about your bond with the reporter. Having a high reporter bond is actually nice for like giving you slight boosts in stats here or there. But come on, it's +2, right? It's +2, +3, +4 stats. Like, how many stats is Hot Topic really getting you? You're probably looking at like 30 extra stats at most for 150. You know what else gets you 30? You know what else gets you 30 stats? 2 scrolls. That's 60. 60 points to get 2 scrolls gives you the same stats as the freaking reporter's binoculars. All right, don't do it. And practice perfect. You just don't need practice perfect. Okay, I've mentioned it already. You're in open, my guy. You're in open. You are not taking triple races. You are not taking bad trainings. You can afford to rest. You can afford to just wait or just slam home a wit. You don't have to slam home every single training every single time you click that button, right? Every break does not have to be a training day. It is okay to have to just wait. You really won't get a lot of use out of practice perfect, right? It's 150 points for, again, also, by the way, there's other items that we're talking about later. We're going to just skip ahead a little bit. Good luck charms exist, by the way. Just buy those. If you're worried about failing trainings, just buy these, okay? You basically never need to spend 150 for practice perfect, all right? What is probably going to matter less often than the charm will, all right? And fast learner, fast learner, I know. I can hear you in the comments typing away already. I see you. I smell you. All right, I can smell the Cheeto dust on your fingers. And they're going, no. Fast learner good. You said, skill points. Well, yeah, but like, this is a really expensive source of skill points, guys. Like, at 280, you could buy whatever you want in a very large quantity. I can almost guarantee you're never going to get something better than whatever you could have bought instead, right? And also keep in mind, hey, you remember what I said earlier about how you're going to have skill points left over all the time, right? It's just going to be a natural state of being. Well, keep that in mind when you look at fast learner. you're just going to have more skill points left over. Honestly, at that point, you might as well say, I'm just going to make a graded Uma. Or, hey, turn it into a team trial. Like, if you absolutely want to use that fast learner's hat, bear in mind, you've committed to making a team trial Uma. You're not making an open Uma anymore, alright? Just don't buy it. It's not worth it. Now, condition clearers. I mean, if you wanna, why not? Like, if you want to buy, if you see your first miracle cure, I say go for it all the time. But otherwise, only buy these if you need them. Are you currently suffering from slow metabolism? Buy the smart scale. Are you not currently suffering from slow metabolism? Don't buy smart scale. That easy, right? Buy what you see if you need it. Again, the exception being if you want to buy a miracle cure just in case, I think that's perfectly fine. Again, the main source of negative effects is triple races or more, like 3 or 4 races in a row. You just kind of don't do that in open. Since you don't do that, you don't need to worry about it most of the time. Sometimes you will run like a single triple race for the entire career, and then that one time you do the triple race, you will happen to hit stint edition. It's okay. You had a miracle cure lined up. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Alright, I mean, I don't know. I will be frank with you. When it comes to the training applications, I don't know. There's not enough data. All right. So, like I've used them once or twice, but I couldn't tell you how much stats they really gave me because I rarely kept track of what happened when I did use them. I'm currently under the impression that they are very expensive, and you should only buy them for stats you plan on clicking later. I will say, they're kind of like charming, where buying them early is more valuable than buying them late. You want to get as much value as possible off of upgrading your trainings, and it is valuable to do so, but if you see this in like literally the finale, like that, why bother? Right? Like, what does this do for you at that point? Do you 4 more trainings? I guess if you have leftover points, right, you might as well, but it's not massive. It's just so expensive, alright? They're not bad, they're just not amazing. Unlike Reset Whistle. Okay, alright. I know. Reset Whistle is the let's go gambling option of Uma, right? It is very much just like, hey, you wanna try? You wanna try? I've had it save runs. I have had it brick runs. Reset Whistle is very much a, hey, you wanna have some fun? Go forth my Uma. Good luck, right? Like, it'll be really great sometimes, and other times you'll be like, why? Why did I bother? You know, like, I don't personally recommend it, okay? Like, I don't think you should get this all the time. But some of the times it's pretty funny, right? And sometimes it will make your run a lot cleaner. It's always nice in summer having the option to go, okay, well, I'm going to reset my training. Now, what I will say is that if you have any rainbows at all, even if they aren't literally pixel perfect, don't use it. Like, buy it, but don't use it, okay? Only use it on turns where you had absolutely no rainbow trainings at all, okay? That's going to save you a lot of heartache. Buy these every time you get it. Well, okay, I'll be specific. Buy the motivating megaphones, so the 40%er and the 60%er whenever you see them, alright? You're going to use them. You're very unlikely to run out of them by the end of the run. It's pretty normal for me to aim for 7, like some combination of 7 of these, right? So 2 60%ers for the first summer, 2 for the second, and then 1 for every training that you do in between the finale races, right? I think it's perfectly viable to just have a ton of these. It feels great, alright? Even the 20% one's actually not terrible, right? They're cheap, right? Like shoot, man, like, it's 20%, right? A chunk of training is a chunk of training. Especially in your junior year, like, every little bit counts in your junior year, so don't be afraid to just slam the thing home just to get it out of the way, and just to get that little extra bit that can help you make sure you don't need to re-roll your races, right? It's nice. These are, I usually buy like 1 or 2 per run, and I never buy more unless I have an empty slot, right? Like, if I'm trying to build my speed, I will buy the first speed ankle way I see, but I rarely will buy the second until I've used the first one, right? These tend to be something you save for, like, your big trainings, right? Or when you're desperate. right? So if you're desperate, then yeah, buy a bunch. But if you're not desperate, there's nothing wrong with being frugal. Just chill on them, right? Like just wait, you know? You don't have to buy every one you see. I will also say you should not buy these if you don't plan on using them. What do I mean by that? Well, if you don't have any power cards, don't buy the power ankle bracelets, all right? Only buy them when you have support cards that can help them get you the big numbers, right? They're not as cheap as these raw stats are, while they're probably going to get you a similar amount if you don't have a support card to train with them, right? It is what it is. Buy every single good luck charm you see. Good luck charms are run savers, it turns out. Good luck charms are what Practice Perfect wishes it was, and they're a lot cheaper. You can buy 3 good luck charms for the price of, for cheaper than you could buy the perfectly charming mirror, alright? So don't buy the charming mirror. It's that easy. Buy good luck charms instead. Every single one you see. While you aren't trying to go out of your way to ruin your run by not doing races, you will sometimes be hunting down those exclamation points, okay? Exclamation points are valuable. So sometimes you would have raced because it's more energy efficient to do so, but you see that there's a really good training, or you see there's a train that has your exclamation points on it and you want those hints. Use that good luck charm and save your run. Easy. Glow sticks, why? I do think there's one reason to use these, and that is if you're running NTR. If you're running NTR, you love glow sticks, alright? Because you love fans, and because you love fans, and you want to hit 20,000 fans, 200,000 fans as soon as possible, so you get that fat 20% train effectiveness, you probably actually do want glow sticks at least some of the time, early on in the run. Now, bear in mind, don't buy this if you have a 5-star Uma that you're using. A 5-star Uma should not use this. Only use this for your Uma that are 4-star or less, alright? Because a 5-star Uma will probably accidentally get too many fans, and that means that they're going to accidentally level up their ult. Don't do that to yourself. Buy every hammer you see. Hey, you heard how I mentioned that we like hints down in open? How powerful hints are, how good hints are? Well, it turns out that while the hat is very expensive with Fast Learner, right? Hammers are quite cheap. It's very, very easy to have spare money for hammers, and you're going to use them, right? You're still running G1s in open, especially now that we've moved on to the A+ for trackblazer. I will say I basically never bought these back in the day, so back when we were B Uma, I never ran this, right? But for A+, absolutely, positively, we're running these, right? So shut up, take my money, grab your hammers, all right? Use them, don't forget them, okay? Big deal. Also, just like the graded content creators, I recommend the same thing. Try and save 3 master cleats for the finale, okay? It is a huge chunk of stats, and that is sometimes very important. Like if you're a little short on your stamina or your guts for a run, this can save the run, all right? Now, here's my to-do list for the future. What's going to happen in the next couple of guides. I'm going to show you all how to actually use a calculator. I know today I only talked about the existence of calculators. I didn't go in depth into them because I feel like they deserve their own video. That's going to be the next one, all right? We're going to talk about the toss of skills, toss of stats, when to get stats, how much stats you need, stuff like that, how to learn for yourself what stats you need, all right? We're going to do that, all that jazz. And then for the final video, the finale, if you will, we're going to talk about win rates. Why Gold Chip is special, choosing what Uma to run, how to choose your moms, making your team, because yes, you need to think about teams, not just individual Uma in open, because you just kind of take it for granted. No individual Uma will get you the win rate that you want, right? As a team, you're normally expecting a 33% win rate. So an Uma doing better than that is good, but you shouldn't expect it, okay? And yeah, that's the end of the video. See y'all for the next one. Oh wow, this was an hour-long video. Oh god.